The Giannis Antetokounmpo rumor mill has been sparked once again by ESPN's Shams Charania, and we have long known that the Warriors have dreamed about pairing together Giannis Antetokounmpo and Steph Curry. Could that be a reality soon? Well, we'll hear from Shams on what the latest is on Kuminga. Here's what he had to say. Sources tell me that there's still nothing set in stone about whether Giannis Antetokounmpo will stay in Milwaukee or whether he will be leaving. And so he's going to continue to evaluate his future. I reported it in mid-May that he's evaluating whether his best fit is in Milwaukee or is it elsewhere, and that process is continuing. There's been some very real conversations over the last week or so. The constant question that Giannis has, though, is can I win a championship with this roster? Is this roster going to be the one this coming year or at 2026-27? He's asking that question over and over. And look, the Bucks have done, I guess, their best effort, as much as they can do in a really bleak free agency this offseason, to be able to build that roster up for Giannis, but it still does not look like enough, even in a wide-open Eastern Conference. Shams also reported that multiple teams are waiting in the wings as to whether or not Giannis Antetokounmpo will request a trade, and they're preserving assets in order to do so, and I believe that the Golden State Warriors are one of those teams. Now, Giannis himself, he's currently not in the United States. He's playing for Greece in the Eurobasket right now, getting work in before the season starts, just keeping the body fresh and playing for his country. So he's not really concerned with all of the NBA future stuff right now, especially these European guys. They take a lot of pride in playing for their countries over there, so that's got to be his sole focus at this point. I wouldn't anticipate a true trade request coming anytime soon, especially as long as he's over there. But if you add this guy to what the Warriors have right now, and yes, they will have to take a big chunk of salary away in order to trade him, so don't anticipate him just flopping on the roster as is. But a pairing with him and Steph would just be unbelievable. You would get Steph working off the ball. You could have Giannis kind of initiating things at the top of the key, which he has been doing really for Milwaukee over the past couple of seasons, especially when Damian Lillard has been out and hurt. He is the driving force, the entire engine of what Milwaukee has going on. But, is it all that likely that he gets traded? Probably not. Like, this feels to me like more dog days, August, like off-season smoke with no real fire than anything. It's just ESPN really have nothing to talk about at this point in the offseason, and they decide to stoop to, the Bucks roster sucks, so Giannis might ask out eventually. Teams are going to be waiting around, but there's really nothing substantial at this point. I will say, though, it wouldn't hurt to stay ready and preserve the assets to where if Giannis does ask for a trade, well, we know that there's a good relationship between Steph Curry and Giannis. So, there could be a pathway to get a deal done, even if the Warriors don't have the best overall package that Milwaukee would want. Sam Amick of The Athletic kind of alluded to this in the relationship between Curry and Giannis, saying, Antetokounmpo, who has been known to be a dream target of the Warriors for a long time, made a late-night appearance at Curry's party in San Francisco during All-Star Weekend. Warriors officials at hand took gleeful notice, including fellow attendee Joe Lacob, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney were part of the get-together as well. Obviously, Looney no longer a member of the Warriors. This was reported back in May, and it was obviously around the All-Star Weekend when Curry had a little bit of a get-together, and Giannis was really the only non-Warrior to show up. And that tells me that these guys have a good relationship, and they would probably be more than open to sharing the court together at some point before Curry's career is up. We also had heard from Steph this past week that his career is really nowhere near done just yet. He's not looking at retirement anytime soon, but Father Time is undefeated, and he is 37 years old, so we do have to look at the fact that time is running out for a Curry and Giannis duo, and something like this would probably have to happen in the next season or two if this ever wanted to be a possibility. So the likelihood is low, but the relationship is there to where we can't call this a total zero chance for Golden State. More from Amick here. He says, still, it was a Warrior-centric event with one notable and very large exception. And while Golden State is deeply invested in the Jimmy Butler era at the moment, the reality about a player like Antetokounmpo is that his greatness could compel nearly every owner and GM in the league to adjust their plans. So what I was alluding to before is that the Warriors would have to give up substantial assets to get a Giannis deal done, not only because of how valuable that he is, but also because he makes a lot of money in this league, like talking over $50 to $60 million a season. So you're going to have to give up a big chunk of contracts that you have out there. So if this is going to happen in a time frame that makes sense for Steph and him still playing at a top 5 level in this league, well, you're probably going to have to give away Jimmy Butler. If this happens in the next 2 years, you got a guy making $50 million on the roster, how likely is it that he can remain on the roster if you bring in Giannis? I would say that is a much more zero of a chance than a Giannis trade happening at all. So Jimmy would have to be included in the deal, and yes, the Warriors are invested in Jimmy Butler. They've said this is their superstar acquisition. This is who they're going all in on with Steph and Draymond over the next couple of years. But if Giannis is available, like you go out and make that deal, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Jimmy Butler has only been in the Bay for less than 6 months at this point. And if Giannis personally had the choice, like Giannis would probably, in my opinion, be a Warrior or a Knick. Like if you could just snap out of it and join a new team on a whim, yeah, I think he would probably be a Warrior or a New York Knick as far as the teams that are preserving assets and keeping a close eye to the situation of Giannis in Milwaukee. I'm sure there's other teams around the league, like the Spurs could probably have some level of interest. They just gave De'Aaron Fox a super big bag. Houston, I had heard, was interested, but they just made the deal for KD. Would they just probably wait till that deal is expired? So, I don't know. There's a couple of teams out there that make a little bit of sense. Could the Celtics just go crazy and trade Jaylen Brown away for Giannis? I mean, there's a couple of teams that have the possibility of doing it that makes sense for Milwaukee. But if Giannis had the choice. So, coming up next, what else does a Kuminga re-sign mean for 25-26? Yes, that could mean things for beyond next season, maybe into next summer and all that stuff. But what does Jonathan Kuminga coming back to the Warriors mean for the roster and the on-court product this season that have been most locked in on making a deal happen with the Warriors to bring JK in? The offers just have not been what Golden State has been looking for as far as the value that they have in Jonathan Kuminga. We can have that conversation at a different time. The current options as it stands right now, the Warriors have an offer out there to Kuminga, which he has declined. There could be him giving in and end up, giving into the Warriors' demands on the deal. But as of right now, this offer is declined. 2 years, $45 million, and it is non-guaranteed in that second year. It's a full team option, no guaranteed money in 26-27, and that would trigger a no-trade clause. The only way the Golden State is going to sign their version on the dotted line here is if Jonathan Kuminga waives that no-trade clause, and that is the reason that he has declined it at this point. He wants to control his future, which is why, at this point, I would assume that he's more inclined to sign the $7.9 million qualifying offer, which automatically gives him a no-trade clause, cannot be rescinded on that deal. 1 year, he'll be an unrestricted free agent in the summer of 2026. The other option is that the Warriors could adjust this offer and perhaps guarantee some money in that second deal, which would eliminate the no-trade clause that comes with it, and Golden State would have a little bit more flexibility themselves. Kuminga would have a little bit more financial guarantees, and both sides are probably a little bit more happy than accepting one of these two deals. But regardless of the situation, this could get ugly. This is the doomsday scenario that I had been alluding to all summer long. I will beat the drum again that the best course of action for these two sides is that they should break up, and Kuminga should go find a place where he can be the man elsewhere. It's not going to be in Golden State, and they're not probably going to be the best version of themselves on the floor with Jonathan Kuminga. I'll show you why in just a second, but there's a lot of uncertainty and potential awkwardness if Kuminga returns, not only on the court, but off the court as well. He's never been stirring up that much controversy, but it's just the overall having the media talk about it. Why didn't Kuminga play tonight? Why isn't he in the rotation? Steve Kerr getting frustrated over all of it. Then he has to force Kuminga to play, and maybe your on-court product isn't as good there. Kuminga's on ice. He's not really getting consistent roles, so he's not going to raise his trade value or raise his free agency stock next year. It's going to get ugly for both sides here, and that's an unfortunate scenario that we have ourselves in at this point. A Western Conference executive kind of explained it a good bit to NBC Sports Bay Area, and he said they had a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, talking about after the Jimmy Butler trade was made, and Kuminga was out with that long ankle sprain. And they were smart. The smartest team in the league. Back then, they were just smarter than you. With Jonathan, I think that they're questioning that. And then they have Jimmy, Steph, and Draymond, probably 3 of the smartest guys out there. It is what it is. You don't have the guys that you need. You have players on this team that are way too smart, and Jonathan Kuminga just is not one of them. He doesn't want to buy into the system. He doesn't want to invest in learning where he needs to be a complementary player, or how he needs to perform off of the ball, both on offense and defense. He kind of lacks in that area, especially in the defensive end, and then he just wants to be the guy on the offensive end. He wants to dribble, go get me a bucket at the elbow. Jonathan Kuminga in the 90s would be a superstar. I mean, this guy would be Dominique Wilkins damn near in the 80s and 90s if he played the way that he does. But wherever it ends up being, whether it's with Golden State or they end up giving in or finding a trade partner, Kuminga wants to be the guy. He doesn't want to be Aaron Gordon. He doesn't want to be, Sean Marion, a complimentary player. He wants to be the focal point, and that's just not going to happen in Golden State, especially when you consider the large sample size of evidence that we have over the last 3 damn seasons that it doesn't work. I don't have to explain a lot of this graphic to you guys. You guys can pause the video, zoom in, look at all the numbers, do all that stuff, and gather what you want to get from it. I'm going to give you the main idea of the situation. Look all the way to the right of the graphic, where it has the numbers of the net rating on both ends of the floor and who is on the floor for each of them. In those situations, look at who is at the top. Steph Curry lineup, Draymond Green lineup, no Jonathan Kuminga lineup. Okay, cool. Next lineup, Steph Curry lineup, Draymond Green lineup, Kuminga lineup. Well, you have Curry and Draymond on the floor. And, Kuminga's on there. Okay, that's cool. They play well together, right? Awesome. What about Steph and both of them are off the floor? That's the next one. And then Draymond and both of them off the floor are the next one. Oh, who's the constant in the last 3 combinations on this graphic? Yeah, it's Jonathan Kuminga with Draymond Green, and Steph off the floor, Jonathan Kuminga and Steph Curry with Draymond Green off the floor, and then Kuminga by himself without Steph and Draymond on the floor as the worst combination over the last 3 seasons. So, a lot of people think Kuminga could be elite. I'm not one of those people, and I'm definitely not one of those people that think Kuminga could be elite in the Warriors system. It would be naive of me to believe that. We've watched too much basketball at this point suggesting otherwise. But a lot of people think that if you give him the reins and if you give him the green light and you let him drive the offense, that he can be elite and he can put up these 30-point monster nights on a daily basis. I don't know how much I buy into that either, to be quite honest with you. Look at this. Look at what is this? What is this, a McDonald's logo? This is not what you want on your shot chart. You want greens. Kuminga has no hot zones at all. As a matter of fact, everywhere where people think he's an efficient scorer inside the arc, it's red zones. It's below average. It isn't even around league average. He's terrible from 10 feet out. He's terrible from the free throw line. He's terrible from the corner, and he's bad around the rim as well. Oh, wait, that actually might be a green one around the rim. All right, well, good at the rim finisher. Regardless of that, if this cannot be a 3-level scorer that you rely upon on a day-to-day basis, which is why Golden State is smart to believe that he should be a complimentary player, he will not accept it, though. And that's why I come to this conclusion that the Warriors will look to trade Jonathan Kuminga the second they can make it happen. Whether that's January 15th or if there's any way that becomes like an earlier date, however it makes sense, the Warriors will look to trade him. He will be officially the hottest name around the trade deadline next season. That's just not what I wanted.
The Golden State Warriors are still stuck. One contract dispute has slowed the rest of their summer, and until it's resolved, the front office can't fully commit to the moves they've been lining up. Presently, Jonathan Kuminga's future is the hinge point for everything else. Kuminga turned down a 2-year, $45 million extension. The sticking point was the second season, where Golden State wanted a team option, while his camp pushed for a player option. That single clause has kept talks frozen for weeks. The team extended a $7.9 million qualifying offer, making him a restricted free agent. That offer expires on October 1st. If he accepts it, he'll stay for one more season on a low cap hit, but it would also make him much harder to include in the kind of trade that could bring back a proven veteran. The Warriors still like him. Last season, he averaged 15.3 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 2.2 assists while shooting 54.1% from the field. At just 22 years old, he's one of their most athletic and versatile pieces. However, they also know that keeping their options open might mean letting him go if the right opportunity comes up. Golden State has been testing the market for potential sign and trade options, and 2 names have been on the list: Josh Giddey from Chicago and Malcolm Brogdon from Washington. Giddey is a 6'8" guard who averaged 14.6 points, 8.1 rebounds, and 7.2 assists last season. His size and passing vision make him a natural fit for Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler. The challenge is, however, financial. As a restricted free agent, his new deal will likely be north of $20 million annually, and matching salaries in a trade with Kuminga's current number seems pretty challenging. Brogdon, on the other hand, would be easier to slot in. He put up 14.1 points a night for Washington last season, added 4.2 assists, and hit 38.2% of his threes. His $22.5 million expiring contract would give the Warriors a useful rotation piece now and some flexibility next summer. But again, any deal still depends on knowing whether Kuminga will be re-signed or moved. Notably, the front office is also keeping an eye on a far bigger name: Giannis Antetokounmpo. Milwaukee has given no indication it wants to trade its franchise star. However, league executives believe Golden State will be ready to make a call if that changes. That said, pulling it off would be a massive undertaking. the Warriors are already projected at around $195 million in salary commitments for 2025 to 2026, which puts them above the second tax apron. Adding a supermax player like Giannis would mean sending out multiple contracts, potentially a re-signed Kuminga, along with picks and veterans, only to make the cap math work. While the Kuminga situation has dominated headlines, the Warriors have made smaller, quieter moves. On draft night, they acquired the rights to AlexHoops, taken 52nd overall, and Will Richard at number 56. They also brought back guard Taron Armstrong on a two-way deal to maintain depth in the backcourt. Earlier in the year, they reconstructed the core by landing Jimmy Butler in a 5-team trade, then signing him to a 2-year, $121 million extension. That deal locked in another All-Star next to Curry and showed a willingness to swing big even in a tight cap environment. They also saw longtime center Kevon Looney leave for New Orleans on a 2-year, $18 million contract. His departure leaves a gap in the front court rotation that hasn't been fully addressed yet. So, yes, undeniably, Golden State's summer hinges on one choice. If Kuminga signs the deal on the table, the roster is essentially set heading into camp. But what if he holds out or angles for a sign and trade? Well, in that scenario, the Warriors could pivot quickly toward adding a player like Giddey or Brogdon, and they'll keep the door open for something much bigger down the road. When Kuminga finally makes his call, we'll watch it closely. Stay tuned and subscribe if you haven't already.